and I both had the right idea, with matching Workspace ONE t-shirts for us today, so that's good.
Fully branded.
Yeah, I never wear it, so I was like, put it on never. Just put the whole. Can I just share the screen completely? Doesn't seem like it. Okay. Just, of course, if I'm not in sure.
The uncoordinated t-shirt choice as well. At least we're aligned in many ways. That's great, Camille.
Right, that should be the good one. So everybody can see the slides?
Yeah, I can.
Cool. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Camille Debay. I'm French, so apologies for some grammar mistakes. I'm a staff customer success architect based in Milton Keynes, concrete cow and all that. I've been with VMware for the past 5.5 years now, almost 6. Joined part of the PSO team in the Ouch days, then move on to TAM and now customer success. And in the past, I was used to be working in France as Microsoft consultant for a partner. So a lot of Microsoft technology and whatnot. So yeah, a lot of background in modern management in old ways, PCLM and new ways, etc. Adam?
Fantastic. So my name's Adam Matthews. I'm a senior solution engineer at VMware. So I'm part of the EUC business unit looking after Workspace ONE. Similar location to Camille. I live in Aylesbury, wonderful Aylesbury. I've been at VMware for just over 5.5 years now. I joined back when the company was called AirWatch by VMware. And it was just moving into VMware AirWatch at the time. I started as a technical account manager covering AirWatch's enterprise accounts. So doing everything from first line support for the enterprise customers through to dealing with strategy. So did that for about 2.5 years, then moved into the pre-sales team looking after commercial, so mostly London and London South. And then moved into global accounts where I now look after Northern Europe for EUC at VMware. I first presented to VMUG London January 30th last year. So I think my last public speaking gig was at VMUG last year. It was actually the third to last time I left the house for work in 2020, apart from 2 days of training in February. So yeah, happy to be back on the team.
All right. So today we're going to talk about Workspace ONE and specifically around modern management. Just one thing before we dive into it, a little disclaimer, which probably everybody knows, but we're going to show you some tech preview features, so you know the drill for all that. But yeah, you can test it in some environment, in the Workspace ONE environment in the cloud, but it's not GA yet, but it's there for everybody to test. So. Right, so some information about us, some blog, some Twitter, and whatnot. Right, let's dive into it. So first of all, what is modern management? Right, it's a lot of buzzword these days, where you're not doing modern management for Windows. Well, you should. A lot of things that you can see in the different blog posts or Gartner is that there is unified endpoint management, right, which cover all the platforms. And then when you start digging into it, you can say that there is mobility, there is VDI for some use cases, and then there is this piece which is managing desktop and modern management. So what we call modern management is basically to have this consistency and unified approach in terms of managing the EUC estate. So you can have different product, you can have different platform, but the point is that you should have the same type of best practices in terms of managing your devices, having a unique interface, so you don't have to go through 3, 4, 5 different platforms to manage your devices. And also, and that's something which came across a lot more in the past few years, is the employee experience, especially when you start having people at home now, where, well, it's not as easy as before. So you want to make sure that when they're using the laptop, it's working great, they don't have much issue or blue screens or latency and all that. So in the traditional environment, we can have those things. Adam?
Absolutely. So just as a picture of what we traditionally see when we go in and speak to a customer who's either on the journey or considering moving to a modern approach, we see an awful lot of different technologies taking different parts of the estate. So traditionally, we would see along the management plane, we would have tooling for your mobile estate, so typically separated iOS and Android. We would then see another tooling for maybe macOS only. Sometimes you might integrate your iOS devices in there, but typically you'd have something like Jamf managing just your macOS estate. Then if you use tools like Chrome OS, Chromebooks, you'd have the Google Suite managing those. And then when you do have your traditional Windows 10 estate or your Windows 7 estate, as some probably still exist somewhere, you would then have Config Manager from Microsoft running a lot of that integration, and potentially some cloud attachment towards Microsoft Endpoint Manager. Then if you do have some really specific use cases, if you've got some ruggedized devices, traditionally handheld scanners, or tools that are used in warehouses, you might have a tool like SOTI to manage those specific use cases. Then you've managed your platform with 4 or 5 different tools. You then have to layer on security, so you'd have different tooling for next-gen antivirus, web access firewalls and gateways, and then potentially for identity, 2 or 3 different systems, whether that's Active Directory Federation Services, Azure Active Directory, or the likes of Ping, Okta, to manage on a cloud IDB basis. You've got multiple different stacks there to manage. Then going into your virtual desktops, you may have Citrix or Nutanix or something else running along that plane. And then to try and manage experience and remote access, you'd have different tooling for accessing the desktops. Maybe you might have one tool for managing your Windows desktops, one tool for managing your Macs, one tool for managing your mobiles. And then, of course, on all of these devices from the end user perspective, they've got different app stores and catalogs. So you might have an iOS app store, you might have an interface into different app stores, and each MobileIron, Jamf, System Center will all provide their own different hubs. So when you are using, let's say you've got a Windows machine and an iPhone, you're going to have a different experience across those. You're going to have different solutions running, different access applications, and it's a headache to manage across the board there. I'll go to the next one, please, Camille. So with Workspace ONE, we have been working very hard to unify all of this together. So Workspace ONE is a coming together of what was known as AirWatch in the past into Workspace ONE UEM, a solution called Workspace ONE Access, and then along with the Horizon portfolio to bring the virtual desktops and apps in. So this allows us to deliver everything that we see on the left-hand side here, management, security, single sign-on, all integrated into one single platform, whilst also taking some of the best of breed solutions that you may still need to use. So while you can use Carbon Black for all of CrowdStrike functionality, VMware Tunnel for Zscaler, and Workspace ONE Access for Ping, those tools might be embedded, they may be meeting the exact needs. So we can make sure we work with those to deliver a proper solution, which obviously maximizes what you have in your estate already. It's all about making sure you get the most out of what you have and reducing the amount of tool sets you have in your environment. So with that, we see a few key pillars of what modern management actually is. So we see them traditionally as employee experience, and I spoke about employee experience last year at VMware London in January. unified management, bringing everything together in one place, allowing you to then do remote support across all of these different tools, because it's all well and good having all the policies down, but when a user does have a problem, if that arises, you need to be able to get to that user really easily, really fast, without having to put loads of money in to get that access. But also then buzzwords these days, AI, machine learning, all of the analytics and automations that we can do on top of this as well. So we can make sure that if a device battery is dying, we can detect that. We can raise a ticket in a system that will then order you a new one, send the user notifications saying it's coming, so that that user never has any downtime, and we've predicted something happening and we've automated the remediation for it. So going into the first topic here for employee experience. So one thing that we are very key on is giving our users and your users a simplified environment, and that is with what we call the Intelligent Hub. So what the Intelligent Hub does is it allows us to have a single application that's unified across all platforms. If you go to the next slide, please, Camille. Let's go to the next one after that as well, because this one's just a little overview there. So what the Hub does is it's a single application that provides single sign-on for web apps. So whether that's SaaS apps to Office 365, Horizon desktops, you can get straight into a Horizon desktop or an app, even a Citrix app directly from this portal. Also install native apps on your desktop and access general web links as well. And there's all of this integrated within one unified hub that looks exactly the same across all platforms. What IT managers can then do in HR is allow you to provide really good recommendations to your users. So whether that's a help desk portal, whether that's a web page to provide access to work from home accessories. And one of the probably the most clicked links at VMware at the moment is a little work from home catalog where we can order our devices and peripherals. We can also communicate with users via this tool as well. So not only can you get all your access to all your applications and it's across platform, we can also send things like don't come to the office is closed, which may become a thing as we move into trying to get back into work in some sort of hybrid approach. Whether that's Office 365 is down, which as we know Azure has occasional outages, and sending an email to people, telling their email is down, generally doesn't work. So what we can do is send a ping to all of the devices that a user has, just saying, hey, IT, Office 365 is down. Please don't raise a support ticket, which in some cases can cost quite a lot of money, which means people can get access to everything. And also one tool that I use day to day is People Search. So it's a really robust enterprise directory built straight into the Intelligent Hub, allows you to find anyone within your organization within a few clicks, and really helps when you are on a few meetings with people you may not know, or you need to find someone's manager for whatever reason, all from one single application. So yeah, very brief high level there. And as you can see across all platforms, you'll see the same applications across there. You'll see the same recommendations. So wherever you are, you're going to get a unified experience.
Thank you, Adam. So yeah, you can see that the same icons are everywhere, so it's very user-friendly. But one of the things as well we need to have is, so employee is great, right? But we shouldn't forget about the admins doing the work every single day, right? And with Workspace ONE, we are capable of giving a unified layout across the board of each platform, right? So we can provide some dashboard by default, but then you can manage your profile. So what we call profile in UEM is all the configurations that you want to deploy to your devices. So you can see that each platform have obviously their own type of settings, but because the assignment is dynamic and can be based on users, you can base your policy, so your security policy, your configuration policy based on user group and population. So if you want to target finance, you just have to take the smart group for finance, which is plugged to your user group, and then you deploy whatever required. So you can offer your users whichever platform fits their needs. Which is great because you know it's going to be secured with all the security tool you're using, and that it's going to be configured the way you want it. for each platform, even though each platform is different, right? When you configure an iOS device, it's not the same protocol as a Windows device and so on. But UEM allow you to have the same interface for everything. Same for the applications. You can deploy those applications, internal application, public applications with licensing associated as well. You can integrate with ServiceNow to have an approval workflow. We have developed Windows Desktop public application portal, which allow you to directly import well-known application like Firefox or Chrome. Instead of going to Chrome website, downloading, uploading, and whatnot, you just go to enterprise repository, look for Chrome, and add it to your catalog. So it makes things more straightforward and easy to manage. And from an end user perspective, as we saw, it's in the same catalog. So if we take iOS devices, for example, they won't have to go to the App Store to look for the app. They just go there. There is all the screenshot descriptions. They can rate the apps. You can extract the rating as well. That's very important to know if you like it or not. So that's really something which is very important applications as well.
Yeah, moving on to remote support here. The biggest surprise that I've had in the past couple of years is how popular remote support has been. It's a great tool, and there is a lot of incumbents in the market, things like TeamViewer, Bomgar. And with Workspace ONE, we have a solution called Assist, which is a cross-platform remote support tool. So whether you are on iOS, Android, Linux, Mac OS, Windows 10, you can access that desktop. If it's on desktop applications or Android, you can also send files or access the command line. So you can do remote shell on a lot of the devices that you have access to. With iOS, it's a little bit more restricted because iOS is more restricted as an OS. We can do remote view and a few other bits and pieces there. But the key is, big challenge with support is around how do we guide users through a challenge, or how do we get access to certain applications or certain things. I started my career as a support desk analyst, and the amount of times I've spent trying to guide someone through the settings menu of a phone or a computer, saying click here, click there, do this, click this. If I could just go on and show them how to do that, that would have been amazing. I don't believe in doing things to everyone all the time. It's always good to show and guide through. One of the things you can do here is draw on people's screens with like a virtual whiteboard. So you could even like circle the button if someone's saying I can't see the option. You can draw an arrow to it and they can go and click on that, which is really great. You can also record all the sessions that you do as well. So if you do have a support desk agent resolving something, they can, and they've seen it before maybe, and they've got another challenge with it, they can record a video straight from here or take screenshots. That can then be shared in a KB or an internal article. So you can save that knowledge and share that with the rest of the help desk. So once someone has done something once, that knowledge can be shared using the recording that's built from Assist. And it's really, really great tool.
One thing I'm going to add on Assist is two things. First of all, the interface of seeing the screen of the device is full HTML5. So you just need to have a browser to manage those devices and see what's going on. So no heavy clients to have, no nothing, just a browser and you're done. Secondly is that the access to Assist is driven by UEM, which allow you to use all the RBAC capabilities of UEM on Assist. So you can delegate to some people remote control while you block other people to not be able to. So you can segregate which person can access devices and the one who cannot. And one thing I just remembered, we can do unattended mode for kiosk as well, which is very important in retail. So that's the kind of thing we can do. Once you have all that, one of the things piece missing is how do you analyze that? How do you make sure that everything is going according to plan? A lot of times, if you take old PCLM tool like SCCM, you would have to extract the information and put that in some BI tool to draw some dashboard to expand and fit that in the business process, and so management can have an overview of what's going on. But with intelligence, we have different product. The first thing is DIM, which is stands for Digital Employee Experience Management, which allow you to have analytics on the user experience. So is the device having problem with CPU or RAM? Is the mobile device having a problem with some internal application? So you can integrate with Apptelligence, which is our intelligence SDK, which allow you to analyze everything that what the user is doing on the mobile applications or internal applications. So you can track for internal application and know what's going on, so the developer can improve either UX or the overall behavior of the applications. But then on that, you need to be able to drive your business and make sure that your business processes are followed, and you are able to say yes. So for example, if security asks you where we are with this patch of updates for Chrome, then you can pull out a report cross-platform saying, hey, this is where we are with Chrome deployment across the board, and okay, that's great. Or the business can say where we are in terms of licensing, what do we have in terms of applications which require a license, everything you can think of, because intelligence allow you to draw your own report. So you have a big data lake which will crunch everything for you and draw dashboards and reporting, and you can subscribe to it. And there is even an API that you can call, so you can integrate that in your own BI tools if you need to. But then once you have done the analysis, sometimes you know that something will happen and you want to take action on it, and then that's when you will have the automation piece, so which allow you to deploy new software based on rules. So for example, in the screenshot, you can see we want to make sure that the CVE 2020-0690 is deployed to the devices, that we approve it. We create a ServiceNow ticket, so it's tracked in ServiceNow as well for support in case of problem. You can put that in Slack if you're using Slack for the user, so you can have notifications and so on. So you can definitely have more than just seeing what's going on and then take action manually and create the scripts, etc. You can do that in intelligence. You can see at the top as well that we have integration with different security tools. We call that Trust Network. So we have Carbon Black, but we integrate with CrowdStrike, Lookout, Zscaler, and the list is growing and growing. Because basically, I mean, as Adam said earlier, sometimes not our tool are fitting your needs. So you need to integrate with other tools which are doing a better job than us. And that's fine. And you should be able to use them in our software. And that's where the Trust Network come in play, is that you can grab the information of those tools and take actions through UEM. And you can even take actions on access to do more conditional access. So there is a lot of different things that you can do to improve the security, the user experience, and the overall admin experience as well. So in terms of automation, there is a new tool which is called Freestyle Orchestrator, and it's allowing you to organize and sequence profile applications in certain order. So the workflow work in a sense where, for example, the user is going to enroll. You want, first of all, you want to have your device encrypted first. Okay, and then after that, you want to have software, security software first. Okay, and then you want to have different applications. And for example, if you want to install the Zoom plugin, right? We all know you need to have Outlook first, but how can you organize that first in UEM? In the past, you couldn't do so because basically when you enroll, you deploy everything at the same time. There is no order. It's because you have to remember that UEM comes from MDM, which is mobility, and on a mobile, well, you can install 3-4 applications at the same time. It doesn't matter. There is no interaction between them, right? However, on desktop, well, sometimes it's important to have this order. So how do you do that? Well, you have 3 phases. The first phase is going to be, well, you need to provide all the apps, the profiles, the scripting, the sensors, all that preparation. So then you can create your workflow and define the conditions on where you're going to apply this profile and not that one, and this application after the other one. And then after that, you're going to monitor how the rollout is going. And that everything is going to be part of UEM for that, which is great because it allows you to reuse everything from UEM, from profile to application to sensors to script. All the things that nice things that you have in UEM, you can use them. So in terms of interface, it's quite neat because you have a visual-like interface. You have two type of interface. We're going to see that, but the nicest one is this one is visual like. So it's very visual and easy to understand. So for example, in this example, we can see macOS, which will install the productivity app, which include Outlook, Zoom, and Slack. And there is different logical blocks that you can move around and add, so you can test if the application exists, or a registry key, or whatever script for macOS. We'll see that a bit later. We have scripting now for macOS and Windows. You can remove version, install a new one, test that it's a new version, and proceed further down. So it's very logical. So as an example, this one is enrollment. So an enrollment flow. So you're going to say, I want to set the host name. So this one is for macOS. You can see that because we're checking if it's the Catalina version. So, and then after that, I proceed to install the latest Outlook. So the good thing is when you say it's the latest Outlook, even if you update within Workspace ONE UEM, your Outlook version, you won't have to update your workflow. Automatically, it will use the latest available. Once I've installed Outlook, I'm installing Zoom, Assist, and then the plugin, and then I set the wallpaper, and I can notify the user that it's finished. As you can see, for the notifications, we're using ZSH command line to do a notification directly with Hub CLI, which is a tool specifically to macOS, and so we can notify the user it's available.
Yeah, what'll happen there with that script runs is it will just get a little pop-up in the top right-hand side of your Mac where you usually get notifications with a button you can click that will bring you back to that hub that we spoke about earlier. So in this one, it's specifically going to open up the hub application and tell you that you're all ready to go. So then the user can just get going with their day. They're not having to wait while their Mac or their machine is locked down while things are installing. And then when things are all ready, it will let them know. So then theoretically, they haven't got to engage with anyone on the IT side when their device is getting provisioned. It should all be done for them. Yeah, and similarly scripts as well, right? So we've been used to the notion of profiles in managing mobiles for a long time, and obviously with Windows 10 and Mac, it's a very similar experience. The idea with Workspace ONE is once you know how to manage one platform, you know how to manage every platform. So here we can then say, run a bash script in this case. So the last one was eShell, this one's a bash example. PowerShell is also available for the Windows side. But here we can then set host names based on what we've got configured, and we can then return output as well. So we can also do troubleshooting within this system. Basically, exit 0 means success, exit 1 or anything else is a failure, which means you can do if statements, and you can be as complicated or as simple as you need to be within here. You can then execute them on demand as well. So if there was maybe a step that needs to be run where installing an application doesn't quite fit the bill, installing a profile doesn't quite fit the bill, you can then run these scripts either periodically, as we see here, run them on enrollment. You can run them on log out, log in, user switch, which is quite useful if you're using shared devices and you need to reset something once the user has logged back in. We can then, as we see in the bottom of this screen here, display in hub. What that'll do is it'll add an extra icon in the hub where the user can click this button and it will kick this script generation and it will run that on the device. Which means that then they don't have to potentially call IT to fix basic issues. Or if one of your applications is scripted to be installed, you can click that script and it will kick that off. So if you're doing things like Homebrew or running a certain installer that generally you run via terminal on Mac, that can all be done via here now. And then time windows as well. There are some times of the day where maybe you don't want to have this running. So you can then pick, this can only run within the maintenance window. Yeah, exactly. Go through into the time windows piece here. I did. Yeah, so here we can see maintenance hours. So if your organization has got a defined change window, you can then set when all of this stuff can run. And this can be applied to various different parts of the platform as well. So you can have different schedules. You could schedule maybe for, the holiday period, for Christmas. You could schedule for around bank holidays. A lot of my customers in the US will schedule around Thanksgiving and then lock things down until after Christmas, or they'll have a little window in the middle where they can do certain things. So this allows us to bring that flexibility into Workspace ONE without having to sort of manually think, right, I need to make sure I don't push this profile tomorrow, I push it next week. Take some of that automation back into the platform.
One of the things as well we added is extended attributes. So the idea is that we had sensor for about 2 years now, so sensors is the way of getting information from the device. So on one hand, you have the get, which is sensors, and you have the set, which is script. So sensors allow you to run different type of scripts and returning the information, so you can have this information back. But for example, you shouldn't have to write the sensors to get the computer name or the CPU or the RAM or whatever it may be. Those kind of stuff should be part of the product. So we have introduced that with Orchestrator, so we allow you to expand the conditions on which the workflow will apply or not. So, and it's very extensive. So there is plenty of different attributes that you can target. So it's make the workflow more smooth and less work for the admins. In terms of tracking, we have a dashboard per workflow, which will tell you what's going on, the failure rate, if it's pending, if it's in progress, if it's completed, etc. You will have a display as well of the workflow, so you don't have to edit to see what are the steps. And also per device, you can see if it's completed, etc. And when you click on the status itself, it will give you the detail of the status, if it's in progress, at which step it is since the last information sent back from the device. or if it's failed, it will tell you which step have failed, and we give you some logs as well. So if it's PowerShell, for example, it will tell you PowerShell had an issue, or Zscaler had an issue to find whatever it may be, or the application didn't install, and so on. So it's very easy to follow and track what's going on those devices. One of the things as well we have added is what we call desired state management. So idea is we should have workflow where we want to flag that some application should stay on the device and if a user, for example, which can sometimes uninstall application where you want to make sure that this application will come back, then we say in the workflow, reinstall if removed, and we can do that for different parts of the workflow. So you can reapply directly if it's been installed. So there is periodically check that the workflow is still compliant, and you can say, I want to reinstall this application if the conditions are still met and the application has been removed. So let's show you a bit of the stuff, right? Right, where is it? That's the problem of having too much. There you go. Sure. So you should see handle corp and whatnot. You can see here, so you can see my screen, right? You can see my.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So there is different. As you can see, you can create as much workflow as you can, obviously. And then when you click on the workflow, you can see what's going on. So here I can see there is 2 devices eligible, and then further down I can see which one is in progress, which one is completed. And for example, if I click on progress, I can see this one is at install edge, and this one is completed. So I can see everything is completed as expected. That's great. I have a detail of the workflow, and if it's a long workflow, you can still click to, move things around. And you can see what are the resources used. So for example, here there is, as an application, there is Edge, there is Zoom, there is macOS, and there is sensors for macOS.
Yeah, one script that calls a similar script that we saw earlier. It will notify the user that the device is ready to go. And then the 12 volt enabled script does a check against the Mac system to see if 12 volts turned on and complete. And if it is, it will return 1 back to the system, and then it will allow this process to work. So that's what that is encrypted part does there. And you can name a lot of these steps as well. So you can call these steps pretty much what you want to make sure that they are valid and easy to read.
Yeah, so as you can see, it's very visual, the visual way. After that, you can have more scripting-like, I would say, and more linear. But then, yeah, you can have different things. You can zoom out, you can zoom in. Sounds easy, but yeah, it's quite nice. And then if I take Windows, for example, which have a bit more, for example, if I click on fail here, it will show me the fail. I can see here, I've made a mistake on, so here parse exception on line 2, there is the if key missing after the if statement. So, okay, I can go to this script and go modify it, and then it will redeploy it. So you can see it's very neat to see what's going on. For example, this one were not met as a condition, so I have different information. I can check the TPM, install BitLocker. If the BitLocker is enabled, I can install the corp wallpaper, install Zoom, put the ASIC tag, and rename the computer on the fly. So you have different things in there. So And then you have, we have centralized, so that's something which happened when you enabled freestyle. We centralized applications, sensor scripts, etc. Because before, if I show you my lab, if I'm still connected, you will see that, for example, the profile were in devices, the application had their own part here, etc. So it was getting a bit messy when you wanted to manage everything. So now you have resources which have everything in there. You don't need to go anywhere else to have all your resources. And so you have your applications, as you can see. You have your antenna application, whichever platform. This one's in macOS, this one is Windows. As I said, you have the enterprise app repository that you can add an application, whichever it may be. So for example, I select Firefox. If there is an update coming up for Firefox, you can notify the admins, say there is a new Firefox, you want it or not. And then you will have the logo, you have everything set up. You can see the install command is pre-configured, and you save it. And the only thing it does is import the application for you. So you won't have to do it, and then you can edit, right? It's not assigned yet. You can change the deployment options, etc. Just to make it more easy for the admins to import everything, and there's already the icon and whatnot, etc. So it's already with the right stuff. Just to make it more easy, and you have the right version. And then you can save and assign and give that to the users, either on demand or automatically, and you're good to go. And you have the public apps, etc., for iOS, Windows Desktop. So you can see that it's very easy from a unified point of view for the admin. Same for the profiles. You can see you have all the different platforms, and then you can switch depending on which platform you're targeting. So it's make it easy for each admin. Even though your company still, we see that companies tend to merge between desktop and mobility. But if you still have two different teams, then they can like filter per platform and see what is there.
So you can even have your app development teams integrate with Workspace ONE and only have access to the applications part. You can also integrate it with your development pipeline as well. So if you want to have Jenkins publishing code into Workspace ONE that automatically gets deployed to the end devices, that's really possible with Workspace ONE. It's really amazing.
Exactly. And for example, scripting, we show that we have the possibility to add that in the app catalog. So one of the things, for example, you could have like a PowerShell script which fixes my printer and write down, whatever script you have. You can upload a script if you want to. So if I take one example, this one do Windows P, but we don't care. The point is that you can import your script. It can be very complicated, very long, doesn't matter. And it really, you can target the architecture. It can be interesting for the architecture for Windows people, because you know that sometimes in the registry you can't target the same. And you can as well target the user context. So make it more easy to say, hey, I need to be in the user context to target the current user registry keys. Therefore, it's easier and whatnot. One of the things, and very nice, is that we have the possibility to use variables. And those variables, you can use the automated value from Workspace ONE. So for example, if you have a script which, there is a bug with the display, but if you have a script which going to use the username of the user as an input, well, you don't have to create thousands of scripts for that, right? You just create one script, and in the variable, just say it's the enrollment user lookup value, and then here you're going to use put a key, which would be call it the space. And then if you want to use that in your PowerShell, you're going to my var equal, and it's going to be for at least PowerShell in Windows and app. And then you have access to your variable, which is this one, right? So it makes it very easy after that to think of different use case. Also, if you put passwords, they're going to be encrypted, so you can be sure that the user won't be able to access it, and it's not run through calling PowerShell either. We are using the .NET C# automation piece, so we call our own PowerShell and build everything up. So it's not PowerShell.exe launch, so you can't catch directly the password and so on. So it's very neat.
That's the same on Mac as well, with encrypting all of the scripts that go down. It's completely hidden to the user. So the user, if they're a smart user, they can't go in and fish out all these scripts that are being done. Traditionally, you would have staged your scripts in a folder somewhere in library on Mac and called them. And obviously, yeah, if you've got API passwords or anything else, that's not exactly the most secure way of doing it. So this is a brilliant way of doing that.
Yeah,
and the variable doesn't have to be lookup either. You can type in your own information there as well if you want to.
Exactly. And as you can see, all I'm doing is using the same interface, whichever platform I'm targeting, right? I'm more a Windows person. Adam is more a Mac person, right? And we can both, use the same platform, and you won't have to say, oh, right, your SCCM should go here, your Jam should go here. Just use that, and you won't have to think about anything else. You have one product to cover it all. So it makes it very easy. So for example, another thing I can show you is device update. For example, we have Windows, we have iOS, we have macOS, and you can see that you can target different things. We have OEM update as well. Have nothing because it's Dell related, so I don't have Dell devices, but you would see Dell stuff in there. Android should come up at some point as well. So you can see that the interface is very straightforward. Same for sensors. We should use script, but if I should use sensors, for example, Mac Volt, in the detail, it will run a command in the system and return that type as string. You can put Boolean, different type, and then add variable if you need to, and then save and assign. It will come up in the this one, yeah, isn't it?
That one should work. Yeah.
Should be, yeah. And you can see macOS sensor one. So you have the logo as well. So this one doesn't have any because it worked. And for the script, you can see workflow failed. This one say command not found.
That was me writing the command wrong. So that's good.
There you go.
Really
so you can see it's very easy to see and straightforward to see what's going on. So yeah, it's if I.
So we've gone a couple of minutes over into the coffee break time. Yes. That was quite a nice flow. Does anybody have any questions? That was it for content and everything else we wanted to go through today. We've got one extra little slide there which shows you how to get access to the tech preview if you'd like to via our tech zone system. But no, thank you ever so much for your time. Anyone have any questions?
I've got one if you don't mind.
Fire away.
Bit of an interesting one. It's just something I've been using this for years, and probably like yourself, massive Apple fan. And I hate using the magic triangle with a passion. Do you guys ever see you releasing some form of single sign-on with other services such as Google or Microsoft Authenticated on the login screen? I know other competitors have done it. And to me, that's one thing that's always been missing from kind of the product, in my opinion. And it's, unless you're pushing down the Apple Enterprise route, you haven't really got many other options.
Yeah, that's a great question. there's a lot of debate on the viability of using cloud-based authentication in the login window. There is a tool from one of our good friends who's just launched a system to allow you to manage shared devices, pretty much with creating an identity with a cloud account. So you can hook it up to Okta, to Azure AD, to Workspace ONE Access, use the actual 2FA factor that you want. It then generates you an account on that Mac, it's a network account essentially on the Mac, and you can then set up your own PIN code for it, and then off you go. With the move to passwordless, and a lot of organizations wanting to use certificates and single sign-on, we're seeing the requests for the Jamf Connect equivalent a little bit less. As people say, it's not really as important to have your Azure AD password on the device as it is to make sure you've got the certs on the device that allow you to use the system extensions and SSO extensions. So there is a tool there. I'll just put that in the chat from one of our good friends that started to build something for that. So that's a great question.
Yeah, cool. It is, and it's just interesting to see where you guys are seeing it go as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then the workflow piece as well is a big one for us. A lot of my challenges is around how do I schedule all of the payload-free packages and apps that I'm deploying, and sometimes that's using a shell script in there to check if you've installed the one you want beforehand, and then running it afterwards and just hoping the retries work. Whereas now we've got a framework to help fix that out. So that's good. Thank you for the question. Anybody else?
Hi, I have a newbie question. This is literally my first day on this VM user group, so thanks for a really excellent presentation. I've got a couple of questions. Number one, in terms of the Workspace ONE piece as a whole, in organizations where you have varying degrees of connectivity, so ranging from fully connected to non-connected, where do you see the Workspace ONE fitting in that kind of environment, specifically maybe defense or that kind of environment where people want this kind of seamless experience across all of their devices, but don't necessarily have all of the internet connectivity available? Number one. My second question is specific to do with the orchestrator piece. In terms of, the PowerShell being quite agnostic, in terms of being able to import scripts to create the flow that you want. How do you get modules, or should I say, does the orchestrator encompass all the existing modules that you get with existing PowerShell? And can that be customized depending on your environment?
So let's answer the PowerShell question, which is a quick one. We use the default PowerShell embedded in Windows. So whichever module is available, just do an import module, and you will have all the module available on the PowerShell. So if you need to install one, you will need to deploy it beforehand, and then after that you can import it and run the script. So it's very straightforward because it's the 5.1 PowerShell. So it's embedded in any Windows. So you won't have any issue for the module importing, doing WMI queries and whatnot. Whichever script you put in there will have the same behavior as a script you would run manually on your Windows. So import module, you could try I haven't tried it, to be completely transparent, the install module, which is quite new, but that should work. I don't see why not. From the moment you doesn't take too long to install because there is a timeout, so we can define as well timeout. But yeah, install module, import module if you need to, and then do your work in the script. That's fine. In terms of fully connected to closed environment, there's different things. It depends on the platform. We see a closed network, which comes with certain implication depending on the platform. So for example, if you take iOS is not capable of being managed without an APNS connection. That's not possible. That's not supported. We can't do it. Android, we can. We have closed network support, and that works great in China as well. because Google doesn't exist in China technically. For example, Windows is extremely complicated when you do modern management in a closed network. There is too much, so we don't support that either. We tried, and a lot of I work personally on the closed network piece, and the amount of work required is horrendous because you have a lot of override here and there, and then there is the push from Microsoft as well that is not supporting it, first of all, and second of all, when you start doing MDM, they tend to plug a lot of things with Azure, with telemetry, with a lot of different things, which when they're not there, which either slow down the windows, will block certain type of things, etc. If you're in the GPO/AD world with a not connected environment, that's fine, that's working. But when you start doing MDM, that's where the story of cloud network fall apart. But yeah, it depends on which environment. We see some environments from defense having their own network and dedicated flow to APNS if they or G Suite or whichever things they're doing with dedicated flow. Sometimes they have VPNs and stuff with higher security stuff, but it all depends on how much closed. But from a Windows point of view, it's a no-no. From an Android point of view, we can do it. iOS no as well. So it really depends.
Thank you for that. The reason I ask that is because the organizations where I've worked, some of the networks are completely closed. The customer base wants that experience, but obviously because our cybersecurity rules the world, it's never going to happen. It's never going to be connectivity. And then you've got kind of like the business network where there is some connectivity, and then obviously there's the public network where you've got full connectivity. So trying to kind of build an experience, and obviously we just spoke about the user experience being everything that is kind of consistent within expectation across the various levels of platform is really, really important. And to be able to kind of, envisage bringing some kind of proof of concept or, selling the benefits of the platform to the customer, you really want to be able to demonstrate the benefits and how it would work in different environments. So I was just keen to get your view on those perspectives. And so thank you very much.
Well, one last thing on that subject is that the whole Workspace ONE suite is available on premise, right? So as we talk about some limitation per platform, but the product itself can work completely on the closed network if needed. After that, it's just the platform making it more tricky to do.
And it's mostly feature parity across on-prem and cloud, right? Apart from things like some intelligence and orchestrators, some intelligent stuff is cloud-based processed. But in terms of actual underlying features, the on-prem releases are quarterly, and they are at parity. So unlike some other solutions where you've got different on-prem releases with different things, Workspace ONE has always been a unified cloud and on-prem platform.
Yep, same code.
Cool. Yeah. All right, thanks guys. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Welcome to VMware.
Thank you.